Hey everyone, I'm your host, Robbie Straczynski. Thank you so much for joining us on episode number 108 of Cards Chat, the friendliest poker podcast in town. Though today's guest refers to himself as the true poker amateur, he has put together an outstanding resume that includes about $2 million in career tournament earnings with 75 titles and over 330 registered caches on the Hendon Mob, also earning him the name the Raminator. He's also a dedicated family man and the CEO of a management consulting company, and that's why he considers himself a recreational player. He's still a working man. Well, if that's the case, though, he is arguably the most successful recreational player in all of poker, and we are thrilled to have him with us here today to tell his incredible story. Raminder Singh, welcome to the Cards Chat Podcast.
Thank you, Robbie. I really appreciate the warm welcome.
Thank you. It's good to see you and speak with you. We've done a lot of back and forth being in touch this last week, and my good friend Mike had been covering you at your latest stop at was it Seminole Hard Rock in Hollywood?
Yes.
And wrote a great piece on my site, Card Play Lifestyle. You seem like an incredibly cool guy. We looked at your results. It's like there is a story here behind all of these incredible results, and I'm eager to hear it and to speak with you for the next hour. Thank you for making the time today.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you for having me.
Cool. Okay, so as a recreational player, how did you first get introduced to poker?
Oh, well, the story goes back many years. Around 2006, I was into management consulting, like Big Five, traveling around the country. That's IT projects predominantly. And then I decided to settle in Florida to get a permanent job, move from consulting side to corporate world. So I took a corporate position here in Florida, South Florida. And fortunately, my boss was the coolest dude ever. He was a great boss, still one of my best friends. And he's the CEO of Slum Donkey Poker. I know you'll definitely ask me about that down the road. And he basically introduced me to poker. I was actually coolly coming back from my gym, all sweaty and all one evening. And he's at the bar. He's like, "Oh, Rami, I've given you a name for this bar poker tournament. I'm here with some colleagues. Why don't you show up too? You can late register here." And I'm like, "What is poker?" Right? Wow. And he's like, "Oh yeah, you've played chess before. You're a good chess player and all. Let me come over and I'll tell you. It's very fun game, and I'll just walk you through, and you just play it. Just you get dealt a few cards. They have few on the board, and you have to make the best hand. And let me tell you." And then I showed up there quickly. On back of a napkin, he wrote down the hand ratings.
Oh wow!
Ravi. Yeah. He told me what's ace high versus a pair versus two pair versus full house, all the way to royal flush. And I'm like, "Is like, you got it?" I'm like, "Yeah, I got it." And 90% obviously I didn't know. So beginner's luck. I played that tournament. I think the final hand was 6-4 offers kings. I cracked those, and I wasn't sure why people were mad at me, even though it was but I ended up winning the tournament, and then I got hooked up, and I really like No Limit Hold'em that time.
What is it about the game that attracted you? I mean, it's one thing, sometimes my kids say, "Oh, Daddy, try this game. It's so cool." And I was like, "Okay, but I'm not so into it." What is it when he said, "Let's try this game," that you said, "This is cool," besides obviously, luck boxing and then winning that first tournament?
Right. Yeah, as I went along and I played at that bar poker, it used to be called All In Free Poker here in South Florida. I played in some of those tournaments, and then I realized the tournament poker is very similar to your other events in life, your business, your life in general, Robbie, I believe. Uh, it has ups and downs, it has variance, risk versus reward, right? That equation that have been taught in management consulting from day one, right? My father, the way he went about raising us, a small business, risk and reward, right? So when I started playing tournament poker, I realized it has a lot of similarities there. Plus, I'm predominantly, as you saw, you described my results on Hendon Mob. I'm predominantly a live tournament poker player. That's what I enjoy the most. I don't play a lot of cash. Only when if I bust a tournament waiting for a good friend, I'll get on a cash table. I'll play that. But predominantly live tournaments. I'm not an online player.
Uh-huh. And
So
you said,
me,
and particularly Hold'em, did any other games, have you decided maybe to start branching out to Omaha, or Hold'em is your
yes,
thing?
PLO. That's my
Yellow,
next
okay.
next one. Part limit Omaha, the standard one. Start with that. I really enjoy that 5 card. A little bit more complex, a little bit more, I think, variance in that, more like gambling, a little more. But I like PLO. It has a lot more variations and a lot more combinations and permutations to win or lose. I like that a lot, just from the look of it. I haven't played much,
Uh-huh.
but No Limit Hold'em, that's my cup of tea, the tournaments
Excellent.
now.
So you mentioned, your father, the way you were brought up. You said let's backtrack a little bit. You decided to move to Florida. I believe you were in New York prior to that.
Yes.
And prior to that, like, when did you move to the United States?
Yes. So I finished my college early 90s back in India, mechanical engineering and computer engineering, and a couple other degrees I did on this side. And then I worked there for a year, couple of years. Then I moved to Barbados actually
Oh,
for some time. I worked there as an IT professional. That was my second job there for some time, year and a half, couple of years. And I moved there. I had an opportunity to come to US too that time, but I preferred that because I loved playing cricket that time. So I
oh,
played in
wow.
Barbados Cricket League for some time with the big shots, right? And that was my passion. I was pretty decent, pretty okay. Not very tall for a bowler or a pitcher. If you're 6 foot plus, you have an advantage.
Mhm.
So I'm like 5'9", 5'10". So that was okay to be a bowler there, but you cannot be the best. So I played there just as a hobby. That was
Uh-huh.
fun. And then I moved to New York on a work visa, H-1B visa, 1995 timeframe, around that time frame. So I'm in the US around 27, 28 years now, approaching that.
Uh-huh.
Worked there as H-1B, like consulting, and then throughout the country from New York, because management consulting, you have to travel. Once you
Yeah,
go up the ladder, from consultant all the way to engagement directors to principals, partners, as you go up, you don't have to just deliver on those programs. You have to sell work also for the company.
sure.
And for that, you have to be in the back of the bus, I mean, plane, uh, many times, like 2 to 3 times a week, nonstop. So I was doing that until 2005,
Uh-huh.
until I moved to Florida. So I was throughout the country, name the city, big city. I had to be there because of the client presence there.
That's interesting. It happens to be that my younger brother, Marty, shout out Marty. He is also an IT professional, and I know that he had done that. And every time his workplace had opened up a new office, he had to go and set up the IT infrastructure there. So I'm aware of that it does demand, an in-person presence. Do you enjoy traveling?
I love traveling. I loved it before a lot more when I was single or when I
Mhm.
didn't have kids, to go places, to meet friends, to do things, some adventurous things. But now with family like wife and 2 kids,
Mhm.
almost like teenagers. One is teenager already. Now its main travel happens back to our home countries
Uh-huh.
every year. I'm originally, as I mentioned, I'm from India, and my wife, she comes from Romania originally.
Uh-huh.
So one year we go to India and one year to Romania for kids to meet their grandparents and family. So personally, I love travel,
Mhm.
but with family, right now it's a little bit limited to like basically to family for now.
Sure.
Uh,
No, excellent. That
yeah,
that
so we travel like to our home countries. Yeah.
that's excellent. That's really good. I'm a family man myself. I've got 3 kids of my own, and I do get to also do those trips once in a while, to cover the live poker events. But those family trips, nothing beats it. I look back on my own youth as well. I was very fortunate. My parents took my brothers and I, and obviously those are highlights, and you have the regular day to day of going to school, but those are really good opportunities for family bonding and memories that you could look back on.
Yes, sir.
Do you have relatives who come in and visit you guys in Florida also?
Yeah, absolutely. As a matter of fact, I had my nephew, I call him my nephew, my wife's nephew from Romania, Raresh. He was here a few weeks ago. He got to see some scene of poker here in Florida. My two nephews, one is in Harry Singh, he's in Tampa. That's why I visit here often when there are tournaments locally. Other one, Jason Singh, Chapneet, he's in Texas A&M. He's doing masters there. Both play poker part time as a hobby. So they come over during holidays. Parents have been here. My brother has been here, and Delia, my wife's family, they come over also here. So we don't have many like family members here in US, to tell you the truth. So some good friends, really good friends, who have become family to us. They make up for the family here. We're very blessed with that, to tell you the truth, Ravi.
That's a beautiful thing.
But we do have, thank you, and we have like family, like my wife's mother, her sisters. They'll come over once in a while during holidays, basically Thanksgiving or Christmas. So that is always a really nice thing to have some family members here.
Absolutely. And look, like I hear it also, like your story is sort of like I hear the similarities. It really resonates. I'm here. I've got brothers and cousins and stuff. Still in the States, and the friends become your family as well. And my dad is here, so I totally get that. And one thing I also get, I'm also not a professional player, but I enjoy some good poker when I can. How do you balance that? You've got, regular family commitments and obviously, work commitments and stuff. How is it that how do you actively carve out time for poker? How far in advance do you sort of plan out your schedule and try to say, okay, I'm going to play in this tournament, that tournament, and obviously, as I said, close to home in Florida. How do you go about doing that?
I think that's a very good question, because it's again the priorities. I mean, your work, your family, you got to balance with that. And poker as a hobby, I really love poker after, not playing cricket at this age actively. So I enjoy the challenge. So look, here in Florida, we have been blessed with a lot of good places where they conduct good tournament like series poker, as we were talking about Mike covering at Hard Rock, Seminole Hard Rock. They are the predominant force in South Florida. And now here in Tampa, I come over once in a while to see my nephew for some work. So they always have an ongoing series. Seminole Hard Rock has 4 series per year. Like every quarter, they have a major series. And they have a variety of tournaments there, not just No Limit Hold'em. They are close to 50 tournaments or more each series. So you can pick and choose out of that. Then Isle Casino, and now they call it Harris. I think they bought them in Pompano. That's another one. Coconut Creek, Palm Beach Kennel Club. They used to have WSOP circuit there. Now they got moved to Harris or Isle. So there's a lot of local tournaments, not very big tournaments. Once in a while, you'll find 3,500 buy-in or 5,000 buy-in at Hard Rock, but mainly ranging from 150 all the way to say 2,000, 1,500, 2,000 buy-in, in that range. You find a lot of good tournaments here. So for me, you leave work, get out of work like bit early. Late reg is open till 4:30. If the tournament starts 12, right, mathematically, 3:30, 4:30, you get in last minute at times. So many times the decisions are last minute. If I get done with work, I just show up. Looking at Poker Atlas. Oh, wow, the clock. It's a race against the clock. Let's see if we can beat it, right? So many times like that, last minute decision. And many times I'll just copy and paste the whole schedule of the series into my Outlook, cut out the tournaments I cannot play, like WPT main, right? $3,500 tournament or 5,000 tournament. Many times I cannot play because it goes all the way to Wednesdays. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Those are like day 3, 4, 5. After day 2 being on Sunday. So that's very hard for me to play. That I really have to plan. I have to delegate work to some people
Mhm.
if I have client meetings and all, because those meetings are scheduled on your calendar on a weekly basis, as you know, right? As you
Sure.
mentioned, your brother is into IT.
Yeah.
So obviously, clients are number two after family. Obviously, family is
Right.
number one, and friends, then clients number two, right? So you got to take care of them. They fall into same category as friends. Clients
Sure.
have become good friends. So I can't play those big tournaments, unfortunately, now
Hmm.
until kids go to college, and hopefully after that I'll be able to plan better. But right now I go with the flow because there's so many good tournaments locally. You get in last minute, and many times you can plan in advance view, like
So,
towards the end of the year. Yeah.
so I want to follow up in a moment about the, after the kids, leave the home and go to college. I'll follow up on that in a second. But you've mentioned a couple times, you said, oh, it's a good tournament. It's so many good tournaments. What makes a tournament good before you haven't even taken your seat? What are you looking for when you say, okay, besides, okay, it's close by or something, but when you look at the tournament schedule and say, oh, I want to play in that one, why?
Right. I love the tournaments where it's decent buy-in, low buy-in, or medium buy-in, and high volume of players.
Mm,
Right? The reward is big. You can, like, if you're gonna grind, you got to grind hard. You got to grind not just by, like, your poker skills. You got to grind by heart in those tournaments. You got to go in, like, with that mentality. That's my thought on that. So I'll give you examples. At
sure.
Hard Rock, Seminole Hard Rock, where they have a $600 buy-in, and the first place is close to 200K, 250K,
Yeah.
right? I mean,
Yeah.
those are the kind of tournaments. 400 buy-in, and you can win like 100K. Nothing can beat that, in my opinion,
Mm,
for like recreational players like me. I'm talking for myself, right? I'm not
sure.
talking top pros who love to play those big, area. Maybe one day I'll try that too. The 10K buy-in, 70 entries, it's great. But for me, that suits me better here because it's a weekend tournament.
Hmm.
It starts like you can get in late Friday evening or take
Uh-huh.
some time off on Friday. You can play a flight Friday. Don't make it. You can play Saturday. You make day two. The reward is really good. Then after that, and in the end, those trophies are beautiful. So
Right.
that's motivation to tell you the truth. A little bit like decent buy-in and good reward, and these great players. There's so many great players who play in these tournaments as well.
Excellent. And I said I wanted to follow up on, after the kids go to college, where would you like to play? Anywhere specific you kind of have on your list of like, okay, I can't wait till I have the opportunity to try these tournaments out in these locations?
Yes, it's actually far away for me. Like my son is 11. That's the last one. Obviously, my daughter, she's 14.
Mhm.
So sixth grade, if you do the math, like close to 6 years, 7 years left
Okay.
to get there. Obviously, will be very hard to travel before that. I love helping them with their projects and be engaged and be part of it, go back with kids. So travel will be very difficult for me, but one location I can tell you, or a couple of locations that I have in mind for poker. Europe, like they have WPT Europe,
Mm.
or Australia that has, I
Oh,
think,
wow.
Aussie millions. And I mean, looking at that, I think I belong in there in the long run, tell you the truth. Haven't traveled. My wife being from originally from Europe, I mean that's another thing. Our plan is when we travel as a couple down the road, or even with kids when they have a break, we go to the home country like Romania, and then we hit up another country, go to France, go to Italy, right? Go to Barcelona, for example. They have great tournaments. So WPT, I was even Matt Savage, he talks to me, he shows up. He's a good guy, good friend,
Oh, yeah.
and him and I talk. He also encourages me to get on WPT schedule down the road, and
Uh-huh.
I do tell him, like, one day I'll play in these bigger tournaments. Right now because of my constraints,
Sure.
it's a little difficult, but those are the locations I'm targeting and looking at, and hopefully like Barcelona, Australia, as I said, Europe. I would love to travel and play in some of those tournaments down the road.
That is awesome. It's so great and important to have those dreams. And yeah, I mean, again, it's something that, the kind of places like so many of us dream of being able to go to. I know Matt Savage is an avid listener to this podcast, and as well as all the podcasts. So I will give the shout out. Matt was episode number 51. So guys, after you listen to this episode,
Wow.
if you haven't had the chance yet, go ahead, listen to episode 51 and all the other 107 episodes we have here on the Cards Chat podcast.
Amazing.
Here's a question I don't usually get to ask folks, because they're, the people we have on more often tend to be professional poker players. As a recreational player with a regular full-time job, what is your approach to bankroll management? Because for professional players, often, their bankroll is, you keep it separate from your life role, but, you depend on poker to make a living, whereas you do not, obviously, and you decide to play certain types of events with certain types of buy-in levels. You've experienced tremendous success, of course, over the last few years, but how do you approach, bankroll management?
To be honest with you, as a businessman, Ravi, I do keep full track of my P&L on poker. Actually, I have in Bank of America an account dedicated as poker.
Oh, wow. Okay.
A separate bank account where I have poker, where I most times when I win big tournaments, I get paid with a check. I ask for a check and I deposit it so that I can keep full track of the overall transactions. So so far it's been good. And some of the money that I won in poker, my wife, she's a CFO of the companies, but she's a broker also. A real estate broker. So she's a real estate broker for some of the properties that we bought for ourselves, not for outside. So she used some of the money to buy some of the properties so far. And that way, even she's engaged in my poker journey. That's directly. Cool. And I get to play more, right? Yeah. You hit like a 100K score, you buy a condo somewhere, she rents it out, right?
Wonderful.
Like it's a win-win. I get to play more, and she's like, "Oh yeah, no problem, go play. I got kids." So huge support from her side as well. Beautiful. Without her, this journey would have been impossible, to tell you the truth. So, so that way, she's my partner in that as well. Wherein she knows the whole like P&L, and when she sees like winnings and I'm doing well in poker as well, absolutely, then it's green light for me to play a little more.
Beautiful. This is not meant to be like a personal about your particular situation, but just in general, because you're classified as someone who works a regular job. As far as just reporting it on taxes, are you able to sort of also take deductions for tournaments you don't cash in against winnings that you have? Is that allowed?
That absolutely I can. My receipts and all that that goes as, again, P&L, profit and loss, right? That goes there. One thing I cannot do right now is to expense, obviously, my travel and all and everything, right? That I don't do. I just keep poker receipts and that's it. So down the road, if I tag myself as a professional player, and a lot of my friends who are great friends here in South Florida have advised me, or tag along as a pro, or a semi-pro. But right now, I think I wanna keep it as is. Focus on my business, focus on family for next few years until kids go to college, and down the road, perhaps I'll have that opportunity as well, as you mentioned.
Excellent. All right. Well, folks, if you're not watching on YouTube, if you're just listening, you don't see these two logos that Rami has on opposite both of his shoulders. It says Team Singh and Slum Donkey Poker. And you're, of course, wearing the Team Singh shirt as well. Tell us, what exactly are those clubs, those logos?
Sure. The Slum Donkey, let's start with Slum Donkey Poker, because that came into mix early on. Slum Donkey Poker is a social club, poker club, a non-profit started by one of my very good friends, the guy I told you about, my ex-boss in the previous company. We were in Vegas, myself, him, his wife, my wife, and a few other friends going around. And then we saw like walking around the casinos and all after tournament. Then we saw some of the new poker brands, upcoming brands that time and all.
Mhm.
He had seen the movie Slumdog Millionaire, and
Aha.
all of
Okay.
a sudden he came up with this idea. Hey guys, what do you think of we start like a social club called Slum Donkey Poker?
That's
Starting with
okay.
that. I'm like, great idea, buddy. So that was just a thought. And then we are like, what's the plan around it? Are we going to commercialize or, again, as friends, So he's like,
Mhm.
no, let's start it as an idea. Maybe we have some local players, local like poker players, some professionals. We can get together, look at tournament poker and some cash game, obviously, they discuss. Come up with this social club where we can talk about poker strategy,
Mhm.
the hands. We can talk about tournament schedules, upcoming schedules, and all.
Mhm.
So it started off just as an idea, right? And a talk like chat, walking on the on the strip at Las Vegas, and then it became a reality. That became like a pretty big club that's on Facebook, big time on Twitter. There is a WhatsApp group also that has close to I think 70 to 80 members.
Oh wow, that is a
Um,
lot of people. Wow. Okay.
yeah, thanks. And there is a prerequisite for that. I think now they don't allow. I'll have to ask him what's the threshold. They allow, I think, people with 500,000 earnings minimum to join. And this is not, again, it's not by any fee, no fee there. It's
Right.
only a group of friends, I
Right.
believe. And I can introduce you to the CEO of Slum Donkey Poker as well down the road, and you can ask him a little more about it.
Cool.
So I happen to be his good friend as part of the idea, man. With him as his friend, and we had a couple more friends. So that's more like a social club, and that has a lot of big bracelet winners in it, a
Mhm.
lot of big tournament winners with people with like $5 million earnings and all
Mhm.
and more. So that's about Slum Donkey Poker, where people can go and ask questions if they're part of it and discuss. And is to also give shout out to players when they're playing. Think of it,
Nice.
Ravi. You're part of that group. You make a final table, and everybody cheering for you, even whether
That's
they're there or
fantastic.
not. How you feel on the table? Oh my God, that's great. So that's a good community, very good poker community
And are
where
you
people
all based in Florida?
majority are in Florida, but there are
Uh-huh.
other players too in
Okay.
rest of the country as well as in other parts of the world as well.
Cool.
Some good players. Like one of the guys, I'll tell you, Cosmin Joldis is like $1 million plus earnings from Romania. Is there? There are few from Brazil. There are few from India. So predominantly here in Florida, but there are some from the other parts of the world as
Nice. Nice. Okay. And let's hear about Team Sing.
well. All right. So Team Sing here, same logo there. Team Sing is basically an idea brought up by my three nephews.
Oh.
When they started playing poker, when I taught them in the beginning, they need to like, oh, we need to have a brand, we need to have, you are doing well, uncle, and let's, we are playing too. We want to come up with something for this, I'm like, okay. So my nephew, Harry, Jason, and Sandy, they came up with this logo as a family logo the beginning, Team Sing, and they created a group to talk on, like, again, on their Twitter, on their WhatsApp. So we have that Team Sing there as well. But let me tell you something interesting. Since then, my nephews, they're pretty like young age. One is 25, one is 27, and then 32. Most their friends their age who learned from them, like I taught them basics, they did well, they won some tournaments, all their friend circle, they also became Team Sing, meaning they call me
Oh, that's
uncle
so
now.
nice.
They're like my nephews. One guy, you'll see Lucas T. He lives here, an Asian guy. He's my nephew too. He wears Team Sing logo shirts. He was in Brazil actually playing one a big tournament. He won wearing this T-shirt. And again, no commercial aspect here. Nothing
Sure.
is commercialized. We don't want to do that ever. This is family and friends. So close to now, I think 15 of those young, guys with my nephew, real nephews are my nephews now. So I'm the universal uncle. And Team Singh is there. They ask me a lot of questions on poker in that group. We chit chat. We talk about different poker topics. and we discuss. So that keeps everyone, up to date. And even I learn a lot from them as well, to tell you the truth. It's
Like
new
what? What
poker.
would you say you learned from them? Because I mean, you're the one with the massive results and the tremendous story and stuff. What would you say you learned from all of your nephews?
They always post the best schedules. Like in Tampa, this winter series, for example, I knew about it, but I didn't know the details of the tournament.
Uh-huh.
So with 2 days before, they'll post, oh, there's a $600 buy-in, the one you won last time. You got to show up for that, right?
Huh.
Other thing, they talk about some of the local players in Tampa. They give me information.
Uh-huh.
Like if I'm on the final table, and I ask them, like, you have played against these players, they'll give me about their style, some more information and all. And likewise, it helps a lot, Robbie, there. Like, it's not like that cut and dry or you get it right away, but you get an idea. Is this player a loose aggressive player? What has he won? If you know their name, you can easily check on Hendon Mob what they have
Sure.
done. So that helps tremendously. Information is everything in poker, right? And that's
Mhm.
like a legitimate way of finding, oh, this guy, give them the name, and they give you some idea on the style of play.
It's so clear to me, and I'm sure anyone listening or watching, that you have such a tremendous love and passion for this game, and especially in tournaments, and you're fully aware of the scene, the Hendon Mob, you have big dreams. But a lot of people could fall into that category and not necessarily be successful players. Why do you think you've achieved the success you have and just so many consistent results over the last few years?
Well, again, that's a great question, Robbie. I would say it's a hard question to answer, I think, because for me, self, I come from a very humble family. My father, he was an auto rickshaw driver back in India,
Hmm.
raising four of us, four kids.
Wow.
And I mentioned to Mike also, we never had like birthday cakes or fancy gifts for our birthdays, but we
Hmm.
always have had the books and the supporting materials for our studies. I
Hmm.
wanted to do, like, I was doing mechanical engineering. I wanted to do my computer engineering and a system management course nighttime. I cracked the scholarship exam, 75% off, 25% still had to be paid. My father, he didn't flinch for a second. He found a way to support me for that third degree as well, same
Amazing.
time. So, looking at my father, looking at my mother, looking at our upbringing, we grew up in like a one room in the beginning, and then we got moved to a two-room apartment, six of
Hmm.
us, with shared restrooms and all. Believe it or not, that
Yeah.
era in New Delhi, in those colonies. So it wasn't easy. I saw my dad struggle, but he was a man of core. Uh,
Hmm.
so I learned from him. He, despite like running his own family, he helped his sisters, his brothers, anybody. He used to help everyone. So he had that demeanor. I learned that from him a lot. His life lessons I applied not only in poker but in my life as well. So
Hmm.
he's my hero. When I play poker, I think of that. I mean, not my whole upbringing and all. I remember the roots where I come from, right?
Hmm.
Always to be humble, make good decisions along the way. So it's a combination of good decision making, risk and reward equation, knowing math very well on the felt, to be
Hmm.
able to quickly, very quickly think of the math, the odds against you versus odds in favor of you at
Hmm.
every, and reading players, having that. I would say I'm very thankful to have that little bit of gift, to be able to read your opponents a little bit more. That's why I love live poker more than
Hmm.
online. I may not be good, I'll tell you the truth,
That's very
because I cannot
interesting.
lose.
You said it was a good question. I don't know about that, but my God, that was an amazing answer. That was really beautiful. Because it's
Thank you
not
so much.
just cut and dry technical ABC, but there is a backstory to that, and that's a beautiful thing to pay tribute to your parents and the value of hard work and doing that sort of thing in order to succeed. It's a beautiful answer. Do you have? I mean, do you are with all of the things that you balance, with work, with family, and the poker? Are you able to find any sort of time to study at all? Do you carve that out, or it just sort of before a tournament and after a tournament you kind of review basics?
No, I to tell you the truth, have never even, these are one-offs because these are very important. You guys are amazing, right? Normally, I haven't even, I don't even have time to, because of my schedule, obviously, as the CEO of a company, doing some real estate on the side, having family dispersed across the globe. I take breaks even to go back to India, every 3 months or 4 months, I'm in India to spend more time with my aging parents at this age, right? So rarely I get time to, study on poker. My main sources of information or knowledge are these couple of groups we talked about, Slum Donkey Poker and Team Sync. They keep me updated, and many times they post some of those nice clips there, and I click on that and I see that on YouTube or on a Twitch. But normally, I mean, I've heard of GTO. I've seen that. I'm not a fan of GTO. I told Mike also in the past. Some reason I'm not a fan of that. Min clicking pre-flop. I'm not a fan of that. Making games so mechanical. Used to be real poker. 2.5 to 3x, raise pre-flop. Again, people's individual decision. Poker came from min click 3x now to, like pre-flop raise 3x to now min click, right? Most people started doing it, following some of the traditional poker players, the way the trends are going. So I'm not a fan of that, GTO or stuff like that lately. So I follow what I've been doing. From day one, you'll never see me. Rarely you'll see me open like min click pre-flops. So a lot of those new trends that are coming up, I'm unaware of those. Sorry for the lack of my knowledge, because I'm not watching those courses or those clips. I don't get time to do that, unfortunately.
I wouldn't say that's anything to apologize for. In fact, I find that to be a very refreshing answer, because we do a lot of podcasts, interviews, in the poker media. We see a lot of poker courses and training programs, and they're all good. Everyone has their own different way of learning, but that applies outside of that framework, outside of that GTO as well. And I like that refreshing aspect. You're not a professional and you're not studying, and yet you've still found your path to success. And I think that's very encouraging. I remember speaking to John Hesp as well a few years ago, and he finished 4th or 5th at the World Series of Poker main event, and he's like, no books. He was in his 60s as well, and it was so great, because to know that that's possible, that dream is not necessarily dead just because you have so many folks learning the GTO. There are ways, if you put in enough effort and time and you have that natural knack and ability. So I would say nothing whatsoever to apologize for. You're proof positive that there are other ways to find lasting success at the poker table. That's really wonderful.
Thank you.
When I introduced you, I said 75 trophies. I had written 74, but literally just before we recorded, you won your latest tournament. Where do you keep 75 trophies? where are they?
My trophies are sitting at the only place dedicated to me in my house that I call. Everything else is families, kids and wives. My bar, where I have my bottles of scotch, rum, and I have my bar. And next to that is my trophies. They're sitting there for now. Even my kids' trophies in their respective sports. My son, he's into swimming. My daughter, she's into ice skating, piano, and all. They have their own trophies. So we have a very healthy competition going as a father and kids. So whenever I win a trophy, I will take it home. Kids will see. They don't know the technicalities. To win a tournament, many times you got to beat like 1,000 players. But they're like, oh, Dad won a trophy now. Our turn. So they're like motivated to do well in their trophy. So I keep it open in bar for now. It's taking up space, but it's still sitting pretty there for now.
So, I mean, with all of those wins to look back on, is there one of them that you consider to be your own greatest success at a poker table? Or was it something that wasn't necessarily a win that you can reflect on and say, that was my finest hour at the poker table?
Yeah, I mean, those moments are always there when you're with good friends. You end up with good friends and good clients. They are always memorable.
Mhm.
The non-wins, occasions, always great times. But one win or one poker tournament that's very, very important and near and dear to my heart is the West Palm Beach WSOP circuit, the main event win. Not because it's a prestigious ring, the main event. It was during one of the toughest times for me and
Oh.
my mother, my family. My mother was fighting cancer that time at
Mm.
the age of like 74, 75 that time. Stage 3 she had.
Mm.
She was going through chemo, and I dedicated that ring to her. It's written inside the ring. It's engraved from
Oh.
Raminator to his mother, actually.
Oh,
So
that's
I took
beautiful.
that ring after she beat cancer, after the, and thankfully, thank God, knock on the wood, she's doing well. There's no cancer in her body. I'm very, very, very happy and thankful, praying to God. It stays like that, both my parents and family. So very thankful to that. So I took that ring back to India to give it to her. And there's a photo
Oh.
also on Facebook. You can see she gave it back to me. She's like, no, two reasons. It belongs to you. Number two, it's too big for me.
Oh,
Take it back.
that is
Yeah,
so beautiful, so touching, and and you can always carry her with you in that way. To wear that ring.
thank
That's
you.
wonderful. A lot of the folks in the Cards Chat audience, like myself, we're made up of recreational players, and we play for similar stakes that you do. Three-figure, maybe low four-figure buy-ins. I mean, let's say you happen to bump into one of us in an elevator and you had 60 seconds or so to give us sort of a pitch and like, oh, you play poker? Here's some advice for you. Obviously you've, I said one of the most, if not the most successful recreational poker player that there is. What sort of tips would you offer folks like you who are looking to also see success?
One thing I would advise on is to always believe in yourself, right?
Mm,
Because poker has variance. There are downturns. We all have been through that, right? You put in all your chips with kings, and here's king queen suited, cracking your kings, or examples like that happens, and you go on a bad run. That does not define you as a poker player.
mm.
Those bust outs, right? It's basically bouncing back from that, going on to the next tournament again, fully prepared, believing in yourself, and always I say go with your reads in the live poker. Many times you got to call off your opponent three barrel with king high. You got to do it. Many times you got to fold a set. You got to go with your read. Believe in yourself. I believe in one line for a very long time, almost 20 years, that I learned from one of my mentors. Success is never ending, and failure is never final, right?
Ooh.
I strongly believe in that line. It's on my, you can see on my social media as well. The temporary failure, and you're not even like, it's not even your fault. Many times you make wrong decisions. I do too in poker. Call up somebody with the pocket nines on a king high board, not believing. Okay, but that does happen. That's part of the journey. Always. So always believe in yourself. There'll be variance in poker, and there are ways to bounce back for good players
I
always.
love it. And let's say that sentence one more time. Success is never ending, and
Failure is never final.
I love it. Oh, absolutely wonderful. Two more questions from me before we move on to the community questions segment of the show. This is something that I've never experienced before. So prior to this interview, you had shared with me and with Mike this media packet, and it was full of information about yourself, about your recreational poker career, stats, charts, the whole works. I mean, I've been doing poker media for quite a while. I have never seen anything like that. Even like the big online poker operators who have sponsored pros don't say, here's a media packet for you to learn. What inspired you to create that for yourself and to have it available to people if they wanted to learn more about you?
All the credit on that goes to my nephew Jason Japneet, who is doing his masters from Texas A&M. It's one of his projects. and he wanted to analyze, do an analytics project that's a drill down with some graphs and all. So he puts together charts on TeamSync for not just for me. That's not just for me. That's available for all things, right? My other nephews, their friends, all my nephews, they can look at those stats. So basically, him asking me questions and looking at number of wins versus how many times you have cashed, right? Your cash to win ratio. Then he compared with some of the top players like Phil Hellmuth, Justin Bonomo, and Daniel Negreanu and all. He put that together. Then he put together some of the stats on the final table, right? How many, when you make final table, what percentage of times you end up winning out of the 9-handed final table. And he put together second, third, fourth, fifth. So he asked me, is that a good way to describe? Obviously, I gave him input into that, but I want to give all the credit to Japneet Singh, Jason, and my other nephew, Harry and Sandy. They also helped out. It's my nephew's project, and they did it, I think, in some software, those charts. I don't even know what they use for it, but they showed me in the end. I'm like, that's pretty impressive, guys. You're phenomenal. They're very sharp.
It genuinely is. I mean, like, I have to say, it made prepping for this easier. Again, of course, credit to Mike, who did so much of the legwork there. But to have that as well to work with, it's like it makes my job a hell of a lot easier, which is great. And I just think that's really cool. In a sense, it's almost like, I remember when I was in high school, we had our guidance counselor said, prepare a brag sheet about yourself. That's like sort of like the high school version of a resume. And we do that for work. And I think that's very cool to do that about poker, about your hobby. And, I think that's just a really great project. Kudos to your nephews. It's a wonderful thing. And I'd say, folks, even if you're not a professional player, go ahead and make that for yourself. And maybe that'll, when you see that, when you populate your own stats and that type of information about yourself, it may inspire you to take your career to the next level. Because I can tell that that's something that you're exceptionally proud of. Not just that your nephews put it together, but hey, look, it's very cool to have it black on white. And look what I've accomplished. I think that's very, very cool.
Thank you.
One last question from me before we move into the community questions segment. We've obviously said you've accomplished a heck of a lot at the poker table, and quite frankly, away from the poker table as well. Being a family man, businessman, I think you live it seems to be a very balanced, happy, joyous life. I just think it's a wonderful thing. What sort of goals do you have for yourself for the short term as well as longer term future, both in poker as well as outside of it?
Yeah, my biggest goal is to see my kids very successful. Obviously, like any parent will have a similar goal. I want them to do exceedingly well outside of poker. I want family to be healthy and fine. I want to take more time to go to India, and that's why I may not play as much poker as I've been playing, like even locally here. I may start going to India a little bit more often to spend more time. So they're aging parents. My dad is 82. My mom is almost 80 now.
Wow.
So I'd love to spend time with them, go there. So that's my immediate goal. Immediate family and parents, spend time with them. Want kids to go to college, do well, have a profession, and they play poker. Like, on the side, I would love for them to also enjoy the game. It's a great game. Regarding poker, for next 6 to 7 years, as we discussed, Ravi, I would like to continue down the same path. Locally here in South Florida, we have so many good tournaments, so many good friends, all these tournament directors, if you will, Tony Burns and Jason, and at Hard Rock. Then we have all other casinos, Vinny at Isle and Jamie at Palm Beach Kennel Club and all. They've become very good friends of mine. So always we discuss about ideas, tournament structures. I give my inputs. I email them or I text them. I'll tell them, like, continuous improvement and playing in those tournaments, local tournaments on ongoing basis for now. But in the long run, once I think the kids are in the college and a little bit, more time at hand, one of my goals, and normally I haven't discussed with many folks outside of like, my nephews or very close friends, but I'll share with you
Thank
and with
you.
your audience. One day I would love to play in the WPT, continuously, like few tournaments in WPT mains, and
Oh,
hopefully
nice.
win one of the WPTs. That's my end goal. Yeah, WSOP, obviously bracelets, they're always, that's great, but Vegas, that happens in like extreme scorching heat, and I go there, I go there for a week, I get homesick, and I'm like, I don't feel myself in
Oh,
Vegas. Summertime, tell you the truth, so perhaps one of the WPTs down the road, that would be a great one to have for
there's
me.
nothing like getting your name on the Mike Sexton trophy. That's
He was an amazing guy. He was
very,
an
very
amazing
cool.
guy.
Very cool. I love it. Well, folks, this is now the segment of the show where we turn to you, our Cards Chat community, to see what questions you wanted to ask our guests. We do have a dedicated thread on the Cards Chat forums for this. So as we announce who our future guests will be, please be sure to send in your questions. So I do want to acknowledge Gutshot Gus. Thank you very much, Gus, for sending in. You had a pair of questions. Thing is, over the course of this conversation we've had, Raminder has answered both of those questions, but I did want to make sure that we acknowledged that you sent them in. The other question asker we have is Acid Burn FX. Thank you very much for sending in those. And let's ask you, Rami, if you could teach something non-poker related, what would it be and why?
First of all, very cool name, Acid Burn FX.
Yeah.
I just noticed that. That's pretty cool.
It's a great
Yeah,
name. It's a good name.
I like it. I think a non-poker related stuff. I do coach and mentor some folks in the spare time. One thing I can mention is always be humble,
Hmm.
right? And take your journey, as I mentioned before. There'll be ups and downs. I mean, not just in poker, in life. You got to stay positive during the down times, and good times will come.
I like it.
It'll pass. Those are temporary phases. I've seen throughout. I'm 48 years old. I've seen it. It does happen in poker or life in general. So staying positive is very, very important. And in my opinion, also staying away from, I mean, obviously you're not going to like, block people, on social media and all, but staying away from negativity
Hmm.
also helps you tremendously. You
I
can
like
stay
it.
away from as much negativity as possible, and keeps your mind fresh, and you can focus on your goals and achieve them.
Excellent. Good stuff. Um, Next one from Acid Burn FX. We'll do two more. If you were given the chance to make one wish of your own come true, what would it be and why?
Poker related or in general?
However you'd like to answer the question.
I want my parents to take 20 years of my life and to have them,
Oh,
I mean, wish, you're talking about the wish in general, but, I mean, obviously you care for your family. You want them to live long and be healthy, family to be healthy. Related to poker, obviously, one thing I would love to win a WPT title, as I mentioned earlier,
right.
getting back to poker. But best thing I can wish for is for the healthiest of life for my all my family and friends in general. That's my wish
Beautiful.
always.
Beautiful. And we'll do one last one, and I will add a little bit to it because Acid Burn FX is asking, what is the nice thing you remember doing for someone? And I'll also ask, what is the nicest thing you remember someone doing for you?
Yeah, the nicest thing someone doing for me, to starting with that, was giving me an opportunity in the management consulting space.
Hmm.
I used to be more of a like a technical hardcore developer kind of person early on in my career, kind of introvert, and never had those good people skills. I didn't have great communication skills at start of my career. I was more like a mechanical engineering, IT geek kind of, developer sitting there. All right, boss is coming over. Okay, I'm coding. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Extremely, important program and all. So, couple of my mentors and bosses trusting in me and giving me that opportunity and helping me improve on those people skills. I'll always be thankful to them. Every December 31st, January 1st, I write them a card to thank them.
Oh, that's
Have
wonderful.
to. So and doing, I've done something similar for others,
Uh-huh.
as professionals. I'm not talking about poker, non-poker,
Right.
helping them when you are at your lowest. That's when you know who your real friends are, or
Mm.
who people who care for you. So some of my friends, when they were at their lowest, one of them got laid off from Deloitte, one of the consulting companies, and
Hmm.
very bad situation for him. He didn't do well in stocks. There was the dot-com boom, early
Mm.
2000s. And I mean, without going too much into details, I took off from work. He was there, his wife and kid. They were thinking about moving back to India that time. They didn't, and I'm like, hold on. So I went there a couple of weeks, and they're doing exceedingly well in California right now. Both of
Mm.
them, they're like a real estate empire they have now, thankfully. So
Wow.
yes, so very thankful to have friends like that and to share with you.
Wow. Look, I find it, I have to say, I find it hard to believe that you were saying about introvert and not knowing how to speak, because my goodness, I feel I could speak, I feel I could keep talking with you for hours and hours. This has been one of the most pleasant conversations I've ever had here on the Cards Chat podcast, and just in general for a very long time. Wonderful. Wow. Raminder, thank you so much for your time. And but before we wrap it up, I also want to, of course, thank everyone who sent in the questions for Raminder Singh, and a friendly reminder to all of you guys out there, to the Cards Chat community, please send in your questions for our future podcast guests in the dedicated thread on the forums. Guys, please give us a good review on iTunes. Spread the word via your social media channels if you like the show. And Rami, before we let you go, again, I want to just express my thanks to you. And as much as I was looking forward to speaking with you, this exceeded even like the expectations. This has been such a pleasure. Is there anything else you'd like to tell our listeners before we let you go?
No, thank you very much for having me, Robbie, and then thanks to your audience and the listeners, and really appreciate the opportunity very much. Thank you.
Wonderful. Well, guys, thanks again to Raminder Singh. Thank you all for tuning in once again to another episode of the Cards Chat Podcast. I'm Robbie Straczynski. You can follow me on Twitter at CardPlayerLife. I wish you all a wonderful day.